Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the session. Today, we're going to continue working on that podcast rewrite. So far, where we got to yesterday was looking at building our own asset management code. So far, we've tried to use one of the existing uploader bundles and another one of the existing uploader bundles. Let me see if I can pull that one up here. Uploader. There we go. So we tried this one as well, and the issue that we sort of ran into was it was all geared around relying on Doctrine to do pretty much everything, and so there was no real easy way for us to do this sort of on our own. So one of the big pieces of the code that we're working on is trying to import the information from the existing version of the site. So let's see if I can pull up the, wow. Ingest command, there we go. It was already open, awesome. So the code that we have now is actually looking at the code we're looking now is looking at we have media URL, for example, and we have background image URL, and that comes from our export. So if we go to the public website, this was something that we wrote early on as well. So we have the media URL for the existing content for the MP3, and then we also have the background image URL for the background image for the episodes. So what I want to do is use these URLs to download the content locally and then put them into the new system. The problem is that trying to do this was very complicated. So the original implementation, I guess it wasn't super complicated. Uploaded file, we created a file, and then we set the background image to that file. It worked really well in Easy Admin as well, but I couldn't really figure out how to use the background image file because I would call get background image file. It didn't seem super easy to actually use this stuff outside. So what we're going to do is build something separate, and the way that we're going to use it is that we are going to store the file system as a URL that it will just be a plain string in the database, and then we'll have a file over top of it, file instance over top of this string, so that we can do all of the management of the actual file content somewhere else. So the actual entity isn't going to be doing any of the actual work dealing with the file. So I think this is going to work out better in the long run anyway. So we looked at, let's see, was it further down? No, I think we created a Scratch file. I don't know if that's still open. Yeah, it is. That we kind of like sketched out an API for all the things that we needed to be able to do with this. And that was mostly implemented yesterday. What we ended up with in the end, let's see here, Control C. What we ended up with was something that didn't quite work right, but it's kind of was going in the right direction. So let's go to code. App ingest force. And it's going to give us some information. It didn't actually give us that information. I think that was because we had something in the database. So I'm going to remove everything we have from the DB itself. So we'll go back into here, episode, and let's just remove everything. Can I delete all? No, interesting. There, so delete record. And then let's run it again. So what happens here is it gives us some information telling us where this MP3 is being downloaded. And the URL that's generated looks to be wrong. It's not what I would have expected, or the URL in the DB. So it says that it's going to write to episodes/GUID/background image. I need to update that. There should be pristine media, and then the file name that was originally uploaded. So this part looks right. It looks like it's trying to write to the right directory. But if we look in the DB to the pristine media URL, it actually stored it incorrectly. So we have Flysystem episodes 367. So this is right, background image, and then the MP3. Where it's not right is it appears to have converted the question mark to a slash. And so I need to figure out why it was doing that. So let's go into, I think that was just in file. So that's the first place I'm going to look. Because I think, oh, nope. There we go. So, yep, I did it wrong here. So I can't blame them too much. The other thing I want to do is I don't like this, episodes. I think what I'm going to do is update the Flysystem configuration. There we go. And I'm going to add something else here. So I'm going to do episode instead. I'm going to do uploads. Or, no, we'll call it this content. And then we're going to do the same thing here and just rename episodes to content. So this is going to let the other code that was using the background image still work. We're just going to map two places to the same place for now. I'm going to use the content file system, or the content adapter. All right. And then if we go back here, we can do, we can change where we're actually going to put this. So let's do generate file. So we're actually going to do content. So we're not going to use episodes. We're going to put it all in content. And the directory or path is going to be determined by episodes. So in this case, it's going to put episodes in here. So let's do, for media, pristine media path, let's do pristine media. And that should be good to go. So this should actually get into the database correctly now. And I'm going to just delete this code here, or delete this row. The only question that I have about this is, why is it not actually writing? So while this is downloading again, let's go look at the Asset Manager. Create from URL. Oh, this is from file. Let's go to, here we go. So we have write from file. So this is what we're actually doing. So we're doing file system. We should be writing. We should be getting the contents from here. File get contents. Returns a string. So I guess let's do this. Let's see if this is actually getting us any content. And we'll do just to see how big this file actually is. And then there we go. This way we can get an idea of what this write function is actually giving us back. Index, undefined index content. So we need to go back into services.yaml. And so I need to pass in content file system and rename the mapping to content. Same thing for URL mapping. We haven't gotten to the URL mapping yet, but this will work for now. All right. So that failed out such that we didn't actually store the file on disk yet. All right, so this all should have been fine. Running 2 episodes. It's not actually writing it though. Ooh. Interesting. Looks like it's doubling up episodes somehow. So it is actually putting it somewhere. It's just not putting it where I expected it to. Let's go back to one-up Flysystem. All right, so that's the problem. Don't actually need episodes there. So what it's doing is it's using this here. So instead of having things in episodes, I'm actually putting it in content. I wonder then. Okay, I think this might work. So uploads, episodes. Let's get rid of this row. Cool. So ls uploads. Let's see if it actually put it where I'm expecting now. There we go. Cool. Alrighty then. So, and what we got, what ended up stored in the database is Flysystem content episodes. All right, so content is the Flysystem file system, and then episodes is the path. All right, so we got everything there, which is cool. So one of the things that I wanted to do now was do a little bit of testing, because I haven't been doing a lot of testing on pretty much any of these yet. So let's do composer.json. All right, let's rec testing. I think that's what we need. Let's double check Symfony SH. I think there's an alias for testing. Yeah, so okay, it's just test. Okay, so how to test. Write test case into test folder, run PHP. What? All right, so I don't know what this is doing. This is a little bizarre for me. No tests, great. I don't know why it thought it could just do random stuff for me, but okay. See if there's a maker bundle thing for tests. So make unit test. There is. So let's see what this does. All right, give it a thing. It's the name of the unit test class. All right. What's missing? So let me do, what do we call this? The Flysystem Asset Manager Assert true. Awesome. Oh, nope. There we go. Cool. All right, so true test passes. All right, so what I wanted to do was to make sure that we're able to read the URL that we're creating, because this is making a lot of assumptions here. And I think there's at least one assumption that we made that I want to fail. So let's do test create file from URL. All right, so it's going to be that URL that we just created. File equals file. Create from URL. Let's see if this still runs. Didn't do any assertions, that's fine. So let's do this assert equals content. Assert the path. No, file. Video MPEG. And the length. Failed. Ah, okay, so it's the leading slash is a part of the path in this case, which I don't know if I actually like that, but I think it matches the parse string stuff we were doing, so I think I'll just allow it. And then this equals URL and then file to URL. Oh. Ah. So we are actually generating a different looking URL. So printf, we're assuming the path now needs to have a leading slash. Cool. All right, so that should work. So create from URL. Yeah, so I think we've tested that fine. Okay. So at least now I can be reasonably sure that we're going to be getting the right stuff there. The next part is going to be looking at the, I think the URL generation. I don't need any of this stuff here. All right, get stream, get URL. Okay, so get URL is where things might get a little more interesting. So we have a couple of mappings here. So we need the URL mapping. So we'll do prefix equals this URL mapping file get file system. All right. Prefix file get path. Might be all we need. So if we can build our test to prove that, test get URL. This isn't JavaScript, Beau. There we go. All right. So let's create something using the same URL. So we'll call, we'll do file equals file, create from URL. And then we will create a Flysystem Asset Manager. System Asset Manager. So the first argument is the URL mappings. So we'll do content to IO for the prefix. And then we also need something for the, what was the other mapping called? Oh, the file system mapping, which we aren't actually going to be using. So I don't think we need it. Okay. So we'll just pass an empty array here because we aren't going to be using that as a part of this test. So let's assert equals. So the expected URL is going to be uploads that podcast.io / this part, pristine media, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's our expected value. We're going to use Flysystem Asset Manager, get URL for file. There we go. Let's see if this just works. Cool. So this is going to be the basis for our twig extension. So if we look at our Scratch file, the twig extension that we'll have is going to pass in a file. In this case, it's going to be the episode pristine media file. And that's going to it's going to be able to generate the URL then for the download. So it's not really going to be an image in this case, but the same sort of thing should actually work. And the way that we're doing this is within the services file. It's a very simple mapping. This is so that I don't have to write a compiler pass or something to map or be able to select and reference things within the container differently. I'm just saying it's just a straight up URL mapping, the name of the file system, and then the reference to the public prefix for it. And then the same thing for the file system mappings. I'm taking the name and then manually wiring up the file system service for this name. So in theory now we should be able to use everything that we should be able to use the existing upload bundle for the background image as well, because I left the episodes file system and adapters in place. But I think what I will do if this works is go back and replace these so that they're using the code that I'm working on instead. So what this means now is that we have within our ingest command the ability to bring in the media URL. So if we don't have that, we bring it in. If we do, if I run this again, in theory we shouldn't see it try to bring it in again. Although with force maybe we do. Okay, so with force we might actually do that. The other thing that I wanted to do was to handle the possibility that the URL that is being used here is actually imported. So if we go to the episode and we look at what we did for generate pristine media path, if we look at the set pristine media URL, we're passing in a URL, it just sets the value. If we set pristine media and we accept an actual file instance, we are not actually setting a file instance property. We're putting the URL value of that file into the pristine media URL. And then same thing on the way back. If there is no pristine media URL, we return null. If there is a pristine media URL, we return at that location a new instance of the file using that URL. The problem is this create from URL is currently failing if the Flysystem, or if the scheme from the URL is different than Flysystem. What I think I'd like to do is change that so that we can actually support the other types of URLs. So not just Flysystem URLs, but HTTPS or HTTP URLs as well. There will be certain things that it won't be able to do, or that it shouldn't be able to do, but that's just probably going to have to be the way it is. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to write the test, is eventually I want this to be a little more robust, because we're getting away with not having to deal with this now, because the value here of pristine media URL is actually coming from media URL. So ideally what we should do is have, like in the case of the background images, where we say that the background image URL, that's actually going to potentially be an HTTPS URL, and it's the actual place that we're going to be writing the Flysystem stuff to. So this import process, where we do, where is it? Refresh from. If we look at refresh from, we're actually setting the background image URL to the background image URL we get from the cache that we get from the export. So we're going to get non-Flysystem URLs at this point. And I think that should be okay. We need to make sure that that's okay. And that when we ask for the background image, we actually get the file. We get a proper file that when you call to_URL on it, it just returns the base, or returns the actual URL that was specified. And it won't actually have a file system in that case. So I don't think I have to worry about that yet, but we will when we switch over to background image URL. So let's remove. Let's go ahead and allow it to remove that. Let's see here. So if existing episode has a background image URL, we remove it. So we want to do the same sort of thing here with the media URL. So existing episode, get background image URL, we'll do get we'll call this pristine media, right. Okay, so this storage, remove. All right, we're not actually going to do that. So this is where this actually became pretty complicated, because we had to get the property mapping factory from field, pass in a bunch of stuff. That's way more complicated than it probably needs to be. So instead, we're going to do this Flysystem Asset Manager. Let's do write from file, write from stream. Let's do delete. And we'll do existing episode, get pristine media. So it's going to give us a file instance. This function doesn't exist yet. So let's go into here and we'll do delete. We can use some of this. system. What functions do we have? Do we have delete? Yep. There we go. Delete path. All right. So what I'm expecting here is that both the background image and the actually, we're not actually writing the background image anymore, so that's not going to be there. But what we should find is that uploads episodes. What we should find is after we run this, and if I do a die, then we should find that that image is actually deleted, or that file. Oh, no file system mounted with prefix episodes. So what this is doing now is reading here. Oh, it's not actually. So we don't have to set that. Moving back existing. No file system mounted with prefix episodes. I think I'd actually remove this somewhere. Docs. So let's go here. We'll do mount. That might be all we needed. Mount manager. All right. So what's the error I'm getting? No file system mounted with prefix episodes. All right, so I guess mount episodes. So I think there's probably something related to the upload bundle. No mapping not found for field pristine media image or pristine media file. Okay, that's good. Storage resolve URL. So it's actually doing this stuff. again, this is more complicatedness, just trying to print out the URL or the path to the background image file. I still don't understand exactly what it's doing. All right, so removing existing background image, removing existing pristine media. So it's listing this, so that's awesome. If I do the find, we no longer have a file there. So it is actually deleting it, so that's good. Set background image URL. I'm going to copy this up here for now. Okay, cool. So it's actually trying to do it. It's giving me an exception. So even this was hard to do up here. So what I want to do is add another function. So we'll do exists. This is still going to potentially be a race condition problem where if it gets deleted between these two places, it's not going to work, but I'm fine with that for now. So we'll do exists, file system exists, file get assert present. So if it's present, oh, exhausts, awesome. All right, so oh no. All right, so if it exists, we'll return true. If not, we'll return false. I think that's all we need, really. So if it exists, then we try to delete it. If it doesn't exist, we don't worry about it. String given. Okay. Cool. So this, for some reason, it might have actually deleted it before I had that flush in there. So I'm going to delete this entirely. which should require us to download the MP3. And then if we run it again, it should delete it. Ooh. All right. Something there did not work right. Yeah, so it lost that leading slash. So to URL is expecting path to have a leading slash. Parse URL must be not including a leading slash. So what did our test show? So in the test, we aren't actually testing that. Oh, we are testing this though. So we create from URL, that should be parsing it. And that is showing get path should be returning a leading slash. So how did it end up in the database without? So what are we doing here? Where do we create the file? Ah, this. So when we generate the pristine media path, we're generating without a leading slash. So really what we need to do, let's see, how was that being used here? Should be something in the constructor. So okay, so we'll do path with leading slash, and then we'll do type equals text slash content length 1024. Okay, too few arguments to assert equals. Right. All right, so this works. Now the thing that wasn't working, file construction. File construction for path without deleting slash. So path without. What we want to get out of this would be path without. And this is going to fail. I'm almost positive this is going to fail. And this is what we see in the database right now. There we go. So what we need to do is account for this somehow. I guess the easiest way to do that would be in the constructor. So in the constructor, so let's do this is the needle then. That's actually slash. So if string position is equal to 0, we can just use the path as is. Otherwise, we'll use path. There we go. So this should fix the test. Did not, because of reasons. It's actually failing 2 tests now. So one is right and one's not. So if the string O equals to 0, so that's 4 failures. That's the same thing. Look at the beginning of the haystack. String position started 0 and not 1. Looks like it thinks these are all false. It's even helping me here. Awesome. All right, so I had the needle and haystack backward. Amazing. So if it's equal to 1. All right, so let's see here. Oh, actually it should have been 0 still. My bad. Okay, so now everything is working correctly, which I guess is awesome. Oops. So the only thing that would be weird is if path is empty, but path should never be empty in these cases. I guess there's an edge case that I'd have to look at eventually, but I think it should be fine for now. So that's good. I should be able to run the ingest command again. But it's wrong in the DB. So delete record. All right, so starting from scratch, run it the first time, everything should be added. And then run it again, should delete it. So I tried to remove the background image and it removed the local content and then it downloaded it again. So let's see here. Cool. Alrighty then. So it looks like we're in pretty good shape at this point. We're getting the content in, we're able to override it. Just in general, this class here, or this object it's a lot easier to actually work with this. Even if I want to do something simple like get the URL. So say I want to show the URL here instead of the pristine media URL. I can do get URL. It's a lot more clear than what it is otherwise. So I'm pretty happy with that. So this is deleting these things. The other bit is that we do have the pristine media, or the not the pristine media URL, but the actual media URL, which is what we're using a little bit down here. So get media URL. So I need to make this to be a little more resilient or feature rich, because it needs to actually download this for both the pristine media and also the so yeah, so set pristine media URL. We should also set this to set media URL so that they can both, well, no, we'll probably want to, yeah, we wouldn't want to do that. Those would have to be something different. So we would need to generate the, generate a media path, and then write to the file the other version. So this is going to become file, and then we'll do $media file, so that we can get both versions without having to download the file twice. And then we would do set media URL to the pristine media and then the media file. So this is probably what we'll be doing tomorrow to finish this out. If we get both of these done, I think what we'll probably do then is go back to the background image and replace the code that we had to do in order to handle the background image stuff. So that'll make things a lot more simple and easy to follow, I think. Let's do this. We can do the same thing here for the media file. So it'd be pretty easy to do this right now. So I think I'm just going to do it real quick so I don't forget. So we'll copy pristine media. This is an episode. We're already kind of looking at that function. Why is that there? So return to it. The only difference here is going to be, this is just going to be media. So it's going to be the the final version. So the pristine file is going to be the one that actually gets uploaded, and then the media version is going to be the one that's actually going to be downloaded by podcast applications and whatnot. So ideally, I'd like to be able to upload just a raw MP3 that has maybe the image already embedded in the ID3 tag, and then be able to set the title, set some description information inside the app itself, and then click a button. And what that will do is download the pristine media, or there'll be a process running that will download the pristine media, update the ID3 tag with the new title, the new description, new episode number, or whatever it needs to be updated, write those out, and then upload those as the media version. So that's why I want these separate, because I want the original version uploaded to always be there, so that we can then update the information in here. We might also do that with the, we might also do some other things as well, like embed the images. Right now, the cover photo is just the default That Podcast cover photo. But once we have the background images stored, it wouldn't actually be all that difficult probably to add additional images to the final media version. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what I'm intending to do there. So this might actually work as is. Let's see here, because I think this is going to write out a bunch of files. Find, yeah, so we have pristine media and we have regular media. So this just feels a lot easier to me. This feels a lot easier than what we were doing before. Yeah, just because it's explicit what I'm doing, so I can expect things. I mean, doing this little quick fix that I just put in here in the last 2 minutes of this episode, I have no idea how long that would have taken with the existing bundles. But this worked just great. So it worked exactly like I wanted it to out of the box. So the only thing it's not going to do is delete the pristine media. So let's do get media URL exists, get media. So this is where it's going to fall down because this doesn't exist yet. So this will be the part that I'll leave for tomorrow. Moving existing media. Then set media URL to null. We have 2 minutes left anyway, so I'm going to just see if I can do this real quick. Pristine media. Oh, we don't need pristine media width and height. Pretty sure we don't need those. I think those just came in accidentally. So I probably copied the background image stuff. So let's do generate media path. Let's copy this and move this down. And then we'll copy these getter and setter pairs. Preserve case. actually, we didn't need that because we have those already, but we don't have set media and get media. All right, so set media. All right, must be of type string, null given. Okay, so ingest command, get media URL, get media. Where was that at? 123. Okay, so that needs to be null. Okay, so now we're at a point where we actually have an embedded HTTPS URL in here. So this is where things start to fall down with what we have. So just to show where that's coming from, in our database, pristine media URL was empty before, so it never had a value. But if we look at the media URL, it started out, let's see, where's it at? Yeah, it starts out as an HTTPS URL. So since we're setting that to something other than Flysystem, it's confused. It doesn't know what to do. So what we need to do is get the ingest command to be smart enough to say if the scheme is not equal to Flysystem, to just ignore it. But that's going to have to come tomorrow. So thanks for watching. If you have more questions or anything like that, feel free to send them my way. Tomorrow, I'm feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to kind of finish this bit of stuff to get the MP3s on the site, and then maybe even get the background image updated so that it's not using the admin or it's not using any of the upload bundles. And then probably next week, I'm guessing there might be at least 2 or 3 episodes trying to do some work customizing the Easy Admin interface to handle these, because we're not going to be able to use the Easy Admin integrations to the upload bundles because we aren't using them. So that's really going to be probably my first chance to pay more attention to what the Easy Admin bundle has in terms of customization. So yeah, that should be interesting and hopefully not too painful. Thanks again. Have a good day.